Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Marc McMain Show. I'm Mitchell Swan, sitting in for Marc today, and joining me is Tim Bryant. Tim, thank you so much for coming in.
My pleasure.
Wonderful.
Thanks to the GPS for getting me here.
Well, we have no idea where this show is going to go. So one of the things that Marc, and I hope he's listening, he's out there. He gave us permission to do something different with the show. Last week when we were talking in studio and I knew I'd be coming in, I said, Marc, can we take questions from the audience listeners? And he's like, yeah, we don't do that. And I said, why don't you do it? Well, Tim Bryant doesn't do it. Tim's sitting here right beside me. And what it comes down to is people can kind of hijack the microphone if they get them on the phone, and it kind of takes everything down the wrong direction. But what I did work out with him is, what if I allow the people in the area to call in and speak to Chastity, lovely Chastity over here, give her your question, your name, and then we will put that on the air.
Or not, as the case may be.
Or not. We reserve. Well, we'll just tell you, we have so many questions we didn't get to yours.
Exactly, yeah.
Right? So you're going to need the number for that. And if you want to call the studio and participate in the show, the number is 706-438-3060. Now, this may be the first and last time we're ever allowed to do this. So this is your opportunity. So we'll make you famous. Just give us a call.
What was that number again?
It is 706-438-3060.
Got it.
Perfect.
Now, while people are thinking of their bright questions, I went on a rant this morning. As most of you know, my wife and I have Sapphire Wealth Management here in Good Hope, so I feel compelled every single morning, especially after the weekend we just had, that I've got to get up early and read the financial papers. Now, I've got to share with you, I know how you feel about nuclear energy, and we can talk about that later on. It's not the subject I want to talk about, but as I was going through and doing my studying on the world, there was one op-ed piece, and it was titled, Why America Needs Nuclear Energy More Now Than Ever. And the instant thought I had that came into my head, kid you not, Nickelback.
Nuclear power, Nickelback. All right, I'm going to just sit back and let you connect those dots.
Right? Yeah. So I'm here on 92.3, real country all the time, and I'm going to take a minute to talk about the band Nickelback. Mm-hmm. And for all of you out there listening, I know that just gave you an emotion. Either you're like, oh, I like it, they had a song called Photograph, or you're like, they're awful, I hate them, I threw away their CDs, and I would never, ever publicly admit to liking them. Now, here's the story about Nickelback. In the 2000s, by any metric, they were one of our most popular and successful bands in America. Every radio station was playing them, and they weren't playing them because they were pushing them on us. People were calling in and always requesting Nickelback. Nickelback sold over 50 million albums. Now, in the 2000s, people would be like, well, that's not a lot. I remember how many Michael Jackson sold. Well, in the 2000s, you could share music files between your friends. You could just download them. So the fact that you went to a record store just to buy it was dying. That was a dying industry, but they sold 50 million. So by any metric, they're on top of their game, and very, very popular, and people had an appetite for their music. And then came along 2011. Nickelback was asked to play the halftime show for the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving. They were going to play one song, and people signed petitions to make that not happen. 55,000 people signed a petition, said, we don't want Nickelback, which is crazy because they were so popular. Now, that one song they were going to sing was titled When We Stand Together. That seems very reasonable. It's a fun song. It's got a poignant message. The refrain in the song is, when we stand together, that's when we all win. Now, in 2011, on Thanksgiving, if you go in the little Wayback Machine all the way to October before Thanksgiving of the same year, we had just wrapped up operations in Libya getting rid of Gaddafi. We were fully engaged in Afghanistan. We were fully engaged in Iraq. This country is divided politically. We don't like our neighbors anymore because, you like Obama and I like the other guy. And it's just odd that someone that comes in with a unifying song on the day of Thanksgiving, it was over for them. And I even spoke to Charlie here, and Chastity agreed. It was like someone flipped a switch and no more Nickelback. So why do I bring that up? Folks, the reason we don't like them any longer is because of messaging. We all like to think we're independent, we're like-minded, we don't, no one can influence our thoughts, our tastes, or whatever. But the country as a whole that still listen to radio went from I love them, hate them. And that happens with a lot of things. And so when you go out today and you try to explore what happened this weekend with the operations in Iran, how's that war going, people will call me and say, Mitch, how do you feel about the war? Well, it's not about feelings. You can ask me what I think about it. I'll talk about the metrics. I'll talk about the strategy. I'll talk about the pluses and cons. But everybody wants to talk about how do you feel. And that's what messaging's all about. When the DOD or anyone crafts a message, or you go on and you watch a podcast, if it's well crafted, they're not there to enlighten you intellectually and make you think about the world different. They want to shape how you feel about something.
Now, I'm going to postulate that didn't start in 2011 with Nickelback doing a halftime show at a Lions game. I'm going to say that goes way back. I mean, as far back as any of us can remember and farther back. Every political speech ever made is branding and marketing. I'm going to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade. That's branding. That's marketing. In addition to being an important objective, everything is branding and marketing. I make my living on branding, and that's how I stay in my house 30 days at a time. I convince people to patronize my sponsors. You can call that what you want, manipulation, marketing, messaging, any number of words you might apply, but there's nothing new there.
No, and 100%. And I think messaging is what keeps my marriage together. I just keep rebranding myself every single anniversary. But I think where I was going with that is I use it as a contemporary example when I started with this article saying I need nuclear energy more right now than the country's
I was wondering how we're going to get from Nickelback to nukes, so thank you.
Well, I didn't wake up with them on my mind either. It's just funny how these things happen. I haven't listened, and hey, in full disclosure, I bought my first and only Nickelback CD in 2009. I don't know why. I was stationed in Hawaii, working for Paycom, and some reason I just went out and I took the trip to the store and bought that CD. Couldn't tell you one of the songs on it, but
okay. So get to the nukes.
So, get to my feeling about nuclear power? All right. I know you and let's talk about nuclear energy. We might as well because, boy, what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz, we might have to find an option to oil. Oil's over $100 a barrel today.
Yeah.
And when I went by the gas station the other day, diesel was at $4.99. That was yesterday. I'm sure it's north of that now. But what people don't understand is that is going to affect everything from your airline tickets. They're going to go up astronomically, to food prices and everything else.
That assumes that any of this and all of this continues, that the current trend continues. Actually, and I'm speaking anecdotally and according to data that I'm seeing, over the gas prices began to spike the middle of last week. You know what they've done since? Actually, in Georgia, they've moderated, and in some places are actually starting to come down. We are running ships through the Strait of Hormuz again. There are no Iranian vessels to harass them. They're all at the bottom of the Persian Gulf right now. So clear passage, clear sailing, probably safer than it's been in decades. This is going to be, in my estimation, you're the war planner, not me, but I see this as very short-lived. Yeah, long-term, you're right. We'd all pay more for every single thing we buy. Everything. And inflation 100%. Through the roof. But I think this is short-lived. By the end of the week, we're not going to be in the month, certainly, we're not going to be talking about gas prices in the same way we are now.
Well, at the narrows of the Strait of Hormuz, it's only 12 miles. No one is actually putting a ship in there to take another one down. It's the land-based rockets that can go a lot further and hit you. But now here's my rant on, so I'm going to do another rant. The thing about nuclear, and I didn't even read the guy's article because I'm firmly planted. I'm a natural gas guy.
Okay.
And the reason is this. Most people think that nuclear, that uranium and all this, is a fuel that makes things move. And it's not. All energy is produced at mass, unless it's a combustion engine, is produced by making steam. What you do is you superheat this steam, and that goes to a superheater, and that takes that steam to a gas.
The same way we were fueling trains 160 years ago.
Yes,
Okay.
But they're closed systems, because you remember the tsh and the whistle?
Yeah.
You'd always see the steam escape.
Yeah, if we see that at the nuclear plant, we have a problem.
Yeah, 100%. And so it's not a fuel. It's a way to heat water. And oftentimes people will be like, well, Mitch, that seems really, really efficient. But it's the most expensive option. Even Einstein said regarding nuclear, seems like a hell of a way to boil water to me. But we have natural gas that is so clean and pure. The earth makes more of it. We burn it off just to get to the oil under the ground. But you can cook with it in your kitchen, not kill yourself, and certainly not leave a mess for generations from now to deal with. And so when I take nuclear waste and I put it in Yucca Valley out there in the West Coast, in the deserts, it leaks. I mean, those places always need attention.
People who know more than I do about nuclear waste, quote unquote, tell me that another phrase for nuclear waste.
I hear branding. No, just kidding.
No, another phrase for nuclear waste is energy. The French use it for energy. It's not some toxic thing that just sits there until the end of time. It can be used.
I can't remember the last time, if ever, I brought the French into an argument and used them to support it. You're probably right. Listen, most of my best work's done on an Etch-a-Sketch, so I'm not the brightest guy in the room. But I do have opinions, and I do feel oftentimes that when you look at therms, you can burn wood, that goes to a certain level, and then you go up, and then you can, burn oil, and oil does really well. Then you get up to natural gas. That's about the cleanest you can get. And then after that, you get, to me, exotic with nuclear.
Well, we're sort of actually on the same page in this respect. I'm going to differ probably about nuclear. In fact, I know that I am. But generally speaking, I am for, in terms of energy, I am for whatever the leftists are against. Because the leftists are amazingly against anything that works. Coal works.
Yes, sir.
Imagine, we need to stay warm in the winter. We need to power our economies. Gee, I wish God had put something in the ground we could use. Oh, wait, there's coal. We can use it, and it's safe, and it can be made cleaner. It works. Natural gas works. Nuclear energy works. Whatever works, the leftists are against. Whatever doesn't work, in any kind of widespread, let's power our economy way, windmills aren't going to work. They're
right.
A joke. Solar panels, they work at making the Chinese oligarchs uber wealthy, but no, they don't work when it's cloudy.
100%.
I mean, whatever doesn't work, they're for. Whatever does work, they're against. And so I look at a liberal, and what do you want to do about electricity? Well, we need this. Okay, I'm against that automatically because you want it to work. And that's not very unifying, but I think it's the correct position.
I will share one situation when I do support nuclear. Now, again, I'm not an engineer. I'm still trying to figure out how to operate a pellet smoker. Yeah, I'm that guy. Yeah. But now when it comes to nuclear submarines, 100%, I think they're fantastic. They go underwater. The crew's got their food. You're going to go through there, make your own water, and you can stay submerged for a really, really, really long time.
But I heard your rant the other night. Nuclear battleships, warships, carriers.
Now, let me get on to the aircraft carrier. See, now when you go with a nuclear aircraft carrier, you have chosen the most expensive option. And people go, well, Colonel, that thing can go to sea and stay at sea for forever.
Yeah, but
yeah. Well, that's great. The ship's working, but last time I checked, all those 114 jets you have, they operate on fuel. And so the gas tanker is still coming out to give you fuel. And so while you're filling up that tank, you could say, hey, sir, you want me to top you off with the oil burner?
Oh, by the way, food for the sailors, food for the crew.
The sailors, yeah. Right. So it's wrong for people to think they can just stay out at sea indefinitely, right? Until we bring on AI and the robots to start doing all the war fighting. So I have to wrap it up. And
she's giving you a finger, not the middle one, not yet.
Yeah. You're doing great.
I'm doing
I
great.
love it. Yes.
Do I
Amazing.
keep on talking, or are we cutting to a
So,
commercial?
well, we're ready for our break whenever you are. So,
All right. Well, we are having one technical difficulty because when we did daylight savings time yesterday,
Yes.
you know, I'm a wristwatch wearing guy,
Uh-oh.
but I don't always turn it. I'm like, I just go like an hour ish. So that's why my watch is telling me
you're
I
a
got
little
way
off.
more time.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Well-
folks, we're going to cut to break here, and once again, you're listening to the Marc McMain Show.
Spring is right around the corner. New beginnings, fresh starts, and big moments. If you're thinking about proposing, if you're ready to take the next step, you go to P&A Jewelers. For 50 years, families have trusted P&A Jewelers to celebrate life's most important milestones. Proudly second-generation, family-owned and operated by brother and sister, we specialize in stunning engagement rings and custom designs made just for you. P&A Jewelers, located at 4665 Atlanta Highway next to Quick Trip in Loganville.
When looking for new shoes, the place to check out is K&D Shoes in Conyers. Family owned and operated for over 30 years, offering one of the largest selection of shoes for men, women, and for the kids. From name brands like Ariat, Rocky, Georgia Boot, Hey Dude, and others. You'll find everything from casual to work boots all under one roof. Be sure to see their great selection of outerwear from name brands like Carhartt, Ariat, and more. Need athletic shoes? Then see their great selection from brands like New Balance, Brooks, Reebok, Hoka, and more. Open Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Sunday from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. That's K&D Shoes, 2250 Dogwood Drive in Conyers. Call 770-483-9037. Or to learn more and see their great selection, go to kndshoes.com.
John's Supermarket in downtown Monroe is proud to serve the Walton County community for over 50 years. 3 generations of the Thompson family offering the freshest produce, quality meats, everyday essentials, and now featuring Bistro South, a quick service restaurant with freshly made Southern cuisine and ready-to-heat gourmet meals. Always proud to support local farmers and suppliers, John's Supermarket has the best meat in town and tons of weekly specials. Stop by and see them for all the ingredients, meals, snacks, sweets, gifts, and everything in between you need.
All right, welcome back again. You're listening to the Marc McMain Show. This is Mitchell Swan filling in for Mark, and with me today is Tim Bryant. Tim, so glad you came over here. As most of our audience knows, you've been in radio now for over 30 years, and you'll correct me on the times and
Yeah,
dates.
closer to 40, but okay. Yeah. Closer than I want to be, but yeah.
Yeah, back when they had bulbs in the radios, right?
A lot of different things technically
Yeah.
that technologically they've changed, sure.
Well, everyone's familiar with the name. Everyone knows the voice, even if like I don't know that guy, but they hear your signature voice come on. Would you share your story with us?
You know, the first of all, the voice thing. I get a lot. Here's the thing I get a lot. I wish I had $1. Seriously, every time somebody said this over the years, I say, "Hey, you're Tim Bryant. Yeah, you have a distinctive voice." And people say, she's over there nodding her head, you have a distinctive voice. I don't know that that's a compliment. It just means that it's a distinctive. It could be a horrible voice for all I know. Nobody likes their voice, but I mean, that's not. I don't necessarily take that as a compliment. It's just what people say. No, my ambition. I think I could go all the way back, but to start, sometime in the mid-late '80s, where this actually does begin, a little town called Bainbridge down in southwest Georgia.
Yeah.
I was attending what we called in those days a junior college or a community college. I was going to school there and had the occasion to take an internship in Washington, D.C., a place called the National Journalism Center. I don't know that I was thinking journalism at the time, but okay, just get out of Bainbridge for a little while and go up to D.C. I spent some time there, a few months. I lived with, for a time, a guy by the name of Greg Gutfeld. He and I and some others shared a house together, yeah. He went on to fame and fortune, and I'm doing whatever this is. And I came back to Bainbridge. And I noticed that it was the dean of the college. He knew I'd been in D.C. And hey, the Post Searchlight, the newspaper in Bainbridge, the Post Searchlight, they're looking for somebody to do a little work, cover the city council meeting, whatever. And about the same time, all of this within like a matter of a couple of days, I learned that the radio station in Bainbridge was also looking for somebody to do exactly the same thing.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, well, this is cool. I'll double dip.
Sure.
I will double dip. And to make the long story somewhat shorter, the radio station was fine with that. The newspaper wasn't. There's a guy by the name of Sam Griffin, whose brother had been Marvin Griffin, the governor of Georgia back in the 50s. He died, but Sam was running the local newspaper there. No, you got to choose one or the other. And so I went to work for WMGR Radio in Bainbridge. MGR, Marvin Griffin Radio. His
Makes
brother's
sense.
running the newspaper. He's running the radio station to put that station on the air before he passed. And so the radio station was offering $10 or $15 a week more. And so, okay, I'll go to work for the radio station. And fell in love with radio, never went back to school. And all these years later, here I am. Bounce around a little bit, end up in Athens with no intention of staying, none whatsoever. Met the woman who would become my wife, and here I am all these years later. Let's see, 1988 to whatever now is 2026. So you do the math. That's 38 years.
Oh my
I've
gosh,
been doing
that's
radio
great.
up here. Yeah.
So did you actually finish your degree?
No, I had no degree. No.
Okay.
I
And
was
less writing, too. I mean, going out there and being like a journalist, you've got to write everything down, and people can criticize your work 100 years from now. You speak on the radio, and people are like, yep, didn't catch it.
You know, that's a funny, that is a really interesting dynamic because people will have sometimes, not always, but sometimes will have a visceral emotional reaction to whatever someone says, one way or the other, agree or disagree, whatever, and sometimes it's a strong emotional reaction or not. But yeah, you're right. They remember it until the next thing comes along, and the next thing always comes along. So.
Well, I think people can be critical readers, but they're easy listeners. And if you just say it with authority, they're like, well, I'm sure he's right.
Yeah. People can get fooled easily that way and manipulated if they're not careful.
I did not know that about Greg Gutfeld.
Yeah.
Can you call him and ask him for money right now? Do
You know,
who you are?
it's a funny thing. He came to Athens, and this has been a few years. He was on TV by now. He's at Fox, but he's doing this book tour or whatever, and he came to Athens. I didn't get to see him, but I did put him on the show. And the funny thing was, because I wasn't expecting it. You know, I mean, it had been a lot of years, and you know, I remember him. I know him because he's big and famous. He had no reason to remember me, but he did. I mean, oh yeah, and we swapped stories into the time we lived together, and this happened and that happened. And he's you see what you see on TV, and that's exactly what he is. That's exactly the way I remember. He's the funniest person I think I've ever known, and one of the smartest. He's brilliant.
Well, he is, and I enjoy watching his show. What I would say is, too, and you alluded to this, you said things have changed, certainly since the 80s. And when you talk about Greg and yourself, I imagine people back in the day were trying to cut their teeth in the industry and they just didn't make it, right?
Yeah, well,
you'll never know.
That's always the case.
But now, any joker like myself can just start a podcast, and next thing you know,
well,
you're
most of them
cranking.
have, but okay. Yeah, 8 people are listening to your podcast. You know? I mean, my wife, you know, she said, well, you should start a podcast. I hear this guy Joe Rogan is doing really well. Yeah, well, I'm not Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I say, hey, you should go try that golf thing. That might work. You know, Tiger Woods made a lot of money at it. Sure, but I'm not Tiger Woods. You know, so I mean. What was I'm trying to remember where this was I don't know, some movie or something. In the future, said somebody, in the future everyone will have their own TV show. One person said to someone else, in the future everyone will have their own TV show. And the question was, well, who's going to watch?
Oh, man,
You know,
I love that.
Everybody has a swinging podcast, and I say that as somebody who's been making preparations to put one on, an app and podcast and all of these things. But I will always, I get that people are making a lot of money on podcasts and YouTube channels. They even have a word for them now. What do they call them? Influencers.
Sure.
I will use it, and always have, more as a supplement. When the last radio station signs off, I'll be on it. I mean, that's my plan. That's my plan for radio. Radio is it, and anything else I might do will be to supplement this and not vice versa.
Now, was there a time, we all have seasons in our careers, and I can look back on my 30 years in the Marines, and there's a few sweet spots. I'm like, man, those 2 years were fantastic, or this group of 4 years was great. Was there a season you look back on? You're not done yet, and you got many years left in you, but what are some of the fondest seasons of your career?
This is gonna sound like a cop out of an answer. The most important thing that I do is prepare tomorrow's show.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't spend a lot of time thinking that way. I could think of individual days and occasions and events over the years that have mattered and that do stand out, but I'm so fixated on tomorrow. I mean, literally tomorrow. I'm sitting here right now thinking, what am I going to talk about tomorrow on George's Morning News?
Not Nickelback.
No, what Nickelback? As I'm doing this is somebody will say, yeah, that's why your show is not very good. I will be doing my show. I will be doing today's show, and I'm already prepping tomorrow's. I mean, while I'm doing, hey, I could use that tomorrow. That's going on during the 4 hours that I'm on the air every morning. I'm so fixated on tomorrow. I don't know. When it comes time when I get famous and somebody wants to read my memoirs and I'm writing, and then I'll think about the question you just asked. But I genuinely don't have an answer right now.
Now, I've known you for a long time, and when you prep for a show, you got A to Z, right? There's so much information out there, and you get to draw on that whole well and whatever, that spectrum. Mm-hmm. But you always strike me as someone that would been really, really good as like a sports broadcaster or just focusing just on one topic. Did you ever think of doing that?
I think every guy who follows sports, you're telling me you're not the biggest sports fan, but guys who are, guys and gals who are sports fans, there's just certain things every guy thinks he can do. Like, everybody can barbecue, right? And everybody can do a sports talk show host. Part of my show every morning does include a sports segment. And so for 8 or 10 minutes, I get to be sports talk radio guy. I don't know that I want to do that full time. It's fun. But, between those 8 or 10 minutes of doing it on the air every morning and, I don't know, an hour at the bar every afternoon, then I get that out of my system.
All right, so when we're not listening to you on air, what are some of the things you like to do? Are you a book reader? Do you go home and have a beer, read a book, play with the dog? I know you love to run.
Yeah, I do. I'm having a little bit of a knee issue at the moment, but I'm ashamed to admit this about books.
Yeah.
But with the internet, with this ridiculous iPhone here, I find myself I'm making a conscious effort to get back to books. I will not pick up a book with nearly the frequency that I used to. I don't even read my Bible as a book. I have an app on my phone, and that's how I read my Bible about 99% of the time, is on the freaking phone. Yeah. I don't know if there were a way to just get rid of the phone. I would almost do it. I would almost, it was a good experiment. It was fun. Let's throw these things away, because we're not going to do that. But I do read. I just don't read as much in terms of physically holding a book as I used to. But yeah, the afternoons, especially with the weather nice like it is right now, I'm out on the deck. The dogs are out there. My wife might even come out from time to time. There's a game on, there's the grill going, and that's my sweet spot. Yeah.
And I imagine when you get home at the end of the day, you don't tune in for other people's talk shows.
Generally not. There's a honestly, if I do, it's sports talk, to get my mind away from all this stuff. People have this idea that as soon as I get off the air, I go home and I park myself in front of the Fox News channel. I don't watch any of that stuff. I really don't. There are one or two people. I like Eric Erickson in different stations will carry his programming. There's a couple of sports talk guys I listen to. Beyond that, no.
Yeah, well, some of these shows, too. People, I don't know about you, but people will send me a podcast like, Mitch, you've got to watch this show. Got one of them last week. 4 hours and 10 minutes. I mean, I can't sit here. My phone battery won't last 4 hours and 10 minutes. And we've all got maybe a queue of shows we'll watch, but my gosh.
No, I can't. Yeah, the guys who are doing these extended, long 3-4 hour podcasts, and the idea that I'm going to listen to them, well, first of all, when am I going to find the time? The only time I will ever do that is, a long road trip. I'm in the car by myself, and I got a 3 or 4 or 5 hour drive or whatever. Then I might dial up your podcast. That generally tends to be something theological as opposed to, whatever some chucklehead thinks about, some current issues or other. I don't. Part of it is I don't ever want to be accused of stealing from somebody, and I can't steal from them if I don't listen to them. So, whatever, for good, bad, or otherwise, what you hear is comes out of my brain and nobody else's.
Yeah, sound advice. I was a big fan of audio books going across the country. Well, of course, I got Atlas Shrugged, and it was in CD form. And this thing was 3 inches thick. I think I had 10 CDs in there. But man, that could get you from this side of the country to the other.
Can you maintain your attention span? Will stay with you to listen to a book as you're motoring down the roadway? Mine wouldn't.
No, but it's one of those books, and my wife Leslie had sent that to me in 2004 when I was in Iraq. It had shaped her world and changed her world. And
Shaped
she's
a
like,
lot of worlds.
Oh, you've got to read this. Oh, I went down the Ayn Rand rabbit hole, for a while, and we can pick that up after our break. But brilliant woman. But I read that in 2004, and I've really grown to love on it. But when you read something like that or listen to it, and they make a really strong point that applies to you today, that's when the CD's still playing, but my mind now has gone somewhere else, working out the lesson they just taught me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, once again, you are listening to the Marc McMain Show, and we'll be right back.
I'm Rick Jackson. My dad abandoned us. My mom was an alcoholic, so I left the projects. Shoe shining, ticket scalping, vacuum sales. I found purpose in work and built a $3 billion business. Like President Trump, I don't owe anybody anything. And like you, I'm sick of career politicians. I'm running for governor to lead America in criminal deportations, to cut income taxes in half, freeze our insane property taxes, reform the system so that anyone who can work will work, and not just sit around binge-watching Netflix and eating Cheetos. I'll let law enforcement do their job. And if you're caught helping a child change their sex, you're going to jail. I'm Rick Jackson, and I'll get these done. Paid for by Jackson for Governor, Inc.
Recently, I was on a flight writing on a legal pad, and the man next to me struck up a conversation. "Are you an author?" he asked. I said, "No, I'm actually a preacher." Well, the look on his face was priceless. How would you feel if you're stuck sitting next to a preacher for several hours? Surprisingly, though, we had a good conversation. He asked me several questions about Jesus, and I told him that the Bible says if Jesus didn't rise from the dead, Christianity is worthless. Ever thought about that? You see, the truthfulness of Christianity hinges on whether Jesus died and rose from the grave. There's great evidence for it, and I'm one of the billions of Christians around the globe who believes that the resurrection really happened. If Jesus did conquer death, then he's worthy of your trust. If he didn't, reject him because he's a fraud. I believe he really conquered death. What do you believe? This is Bryant Wright, speaking right from my heart.
For devotions, visit rightfromtheheart.org.
Cassie Enterprises invites you to stop in and see their new line of Coyote brand tractors, UTVs, and Bad Boy zero-turn mowers. Coyote tractors have the power to handle any job. Working on the farm, landscape business, and more, Coyote tractors are dependable and ready to work for you. Sales, service, parts, and more. It's all available at Cassie Enterprises. Family owned and operated. 145 Highway 83 in Good Hope. Go to CassieTractor.com.
All right, welcome back. You're listening to the Marc McMain Show on Q92, and with me again is Tim Bryant from Georgia News in the Morning.
Who are you?
I'm Mitchell Swan.
Oh, you thought so.
Yeah. So, next week I'm going to come in with another name, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like authors. I got my on-air name.
There you go.
So what I was going to add, before we went to break, we were talking about reading, and we talked about Ayn Rand, and just what a wonderful impact one book or one author can make. Now, for those not familiar, Ayn Rand had written the book Atlas Shrugged, but she also wrote The Fountainhead,
Fountainhead
which is a
one of
great
the first ones I read.
Yeah, and most of her long novels were developed because she, as I recall, was an immigrant from the Soviet Union way back from 1932-ish, and so she remembered what Soviet lifestyle was, or certainly communism, and she just loved this country, and so wrote these books kind of supporting that independent character, that get out there and make the world your own, and, go ahead and succeed in a
Enlightened
way.
Self-interest was the philosophy.
That's a lot of words. The Marines don't understand that. Enlightened
self-interest. That when you act in your self-interest and I act in my self-interest, so long as neither of us are interfering with the others in any kind of illegal or harmful way, then we're both going to be the better for it.
Well, that's great. One of her early boyfriends, believe it or not, was Alan Greenspan, and he actually eulogized her at her funeral, and I want to say it was like 2004 she died, something like that.
I didn't realize she'd lived that long, but okay.
But in 1975, one of the things I did appreciate about her is that she gave the speech, the graduation speech at West Point, and you can go look it up.
Wow.
So this is an ugly time for the country, all right? We got Vietnam.
You said what year, 79?
1975.
Okay.
So we have just wrapped up the Vietnam War. The military wasn't the most popular thing. You know, you got these young candidates getting ready to get out there, and the nation's not all hip on military service members. And she said, I want you to all know that you fight for the greatest country in the world, for freedom and capitalism, and your work matters. And I thought that was very powerful.
Well, the problem is, and I can actually understand it, that she knew, because as you said, she was an escapee, if you will, from Soviet communism, the most oppressive, deadliest regime in the history of humanity, whatever second isn't close. Okay, she escaped that. People like Ayn Rand and Solzhenitsyn and so many others that we know and so many that we don't know, those people have an appreciation for things that we take for granted.
Well, I think that might be true, too. I see a lot of Iranians here. Some were born here, but their parents had come over from the 60s and 70s. And like, you know, it's a brutal place right now. And if we can get back to where we were as a Persian nation, you know, not putting on burqas and being just under Islamic authority all the time. You know, we used to be Persian. Now we're just thought of as being Muslims. I think there's
a woman running for mayor in Athens, and this is not an endorsement, it's simply a statement. She and her family came here from Nicaragua, which at the time was having its own flirtation, more than flirtation, that they were going steady, Nicaragua and communism, right? I mean, they were a thing there for a while. She and her family escaped that, and so she has an appreciation for it. An appreciation for us in this country and our way of life, like so many others, and she'll talk forever about this, when she sees an America that suddenly, in some cases, in some places, seems to want to embrace socialism and democratic socialism, as the mayor of New York City calls it, she recoils in horror because she knows what it is. She lived it to the point where she felt the need, and her family felt the need to escape it. I have no concept. I have no point of reference. Now, intellectually, I know that it's a horrible, brutal way to live, and I don't want any part of it, but she experienced it. The Cubans who came to South Florida all those years ago, to this day, predictably the most reliably conservative voting bloc in the country. Why? Because they know the opposite. They know the flip side of that
100%. 100%. When we look at the events going around the world, and I'm just going to share my thoughts, not my feelings, but I'm going to go back a little bit, back to 2020. We hadn't had the election yet. Trump was still president. And I want to remind people what happened with Hong Kong. In 1997, Hong Kong's lease from the UK expired, and so now mainland China took back over the territory, but they had agreed to leave it autonomous. That it's us, it's one China policy, but we're going to let you continue to operate the way you always have until 2020. And then they decided, no, we're going to come in here, we're going to put the hammer down, and you guys are just, you are China, under our rule. And at that time, people were out there with signs, and maybe you can remember it, but they're standing out there in the streets with these big signs saying, USA, and help us Trump, and help us America, because they didn't want to get sucked into that machine. And so I don't know if Trump thinks about that today when he's going through and making his policy decisions with Marco Rubio. But you come up to where we are today, and we think about Venezuela just a little over a month and a half ago or so, whatever it's been. And we take out Maduro, and now the people down there are feeling like they've got freedom, at least in hope, and hopefully in application here soon, that it's changing. They were the third richest country in the world just 30 years ago.
And then a few years later, they embraced socialism, and they're eating zoo animals for food.
Yeah, and they're living like it's the Philippines, right? And they knew better. And so you see this now, and that's another dialogue, but we can talk about where I think Venezuela can go. And now we look over to Iran, and we see the potential for those people to get back to their lifestyle back in the 60s and 70s. And for those tuning in and don't know what I'm talking about when I say the 60s and 70s, there's young girls over there graduating from college or high school right now. They wear the black burqas, but when they come home and they're sitting with their mothers or grandmothers, they're going through the photo albums of the family going, well, Grandma, there you are graduating. You became a surgeon. You're in a nice dress. You were able to buy a convertible with the money you got as a surgeon. Mom, look at you. And then there's me wrapped in a burqa, and I can do none of that.
Right.
Right. And so that takes me to my next point. Right now, if you were following the news this weekend, the U.S. now is in negotiations with Cuba to see what we can do to normalize relationships with Cuba. What are your thoughts on that, Tim?
Well, I think it starts with Venezuela, and you can connect the geopolitical dots better than I can. But you weaken Venezuela, you weaken Cuba. You weaken Cuba, you weaken Russia and China. You weaken Iran, you weaken Russia and China. You accomplish all of these things. I mean, talk about a domino theory in reverse, one that works in our favor. This is a president who's putting those things in motion. And again, you can do a better job of connecting all those dots than I can, but the potential, 1,000 different ways this could go sideways. And odds are good that it will at somewhere along the way. But if this plan somehow comes together, it could be a completely different world in a matter of just a few short years, and in a positive way for a lot of people who've been oppressed for a very long time.
Right. And so you bring that the oppression, because it's about humanity. And one of the things that has always troubled me is we start to referring to China as a nation state, and it becomes very impersonal. You know, we're going to knock back their GDP. We're going to drive up, break their alliances with other friends and all of this. But you don't think down the road that this is really affecting some folks. And so when I look here and go, Venezuelan people could be having a great generational change for the better in Cuba, in Iran. And while I'm encouraged by that potential, I'm also a little bit hesitant on what we're doing in Iran, but only for this reason. If we do not succeed, if this doesn't go the way Trump wants it to go, the real winners, and I'm going to get impersonal, will be the BRIC nations again. Yeah. So there you go, folks.
Let me quickly, because again, I'm going to defer to your expertise, and I'll ask the question for a moment. What about Iran and nukes? I mean, what is your assessment of where they are, what we did effectively or not some months ago, and what's left for them to accomplish in terms of nuclear weapons, what threat it might pose to us and the rest of the world, the region, the rest of the world?
Sure.
How seriously should we take that?
Well, so there's a lot to be said when you say, well, we can't do what we want to do to North Korea because now they have a nuclear weapon. So, yeah, they have that, so you have to handle them more diplomatically than with just violence. But if I look at the Persian nation of Iran and go, all right, you're Shia and you're also Persian. You're not an Arab and you're not Sunni Muslims. You are unique and different, but you are surrounded completely between Afghanistan, Pakistan, and the other Gulf states who don't like you. Most people don't realize of the 52 nations in the world that are Muslim, only 2 were run by Shia governments. One is Iran. Historically, most of the population is Shia, the government Shia. The other one was Syria. Bashir Assad was Shia, and he supported them. That's why they were such great allies, but not the majority of his population.
But you also had Iraq, which was, help me out here, it was
now,
majority
Iraq,
Shia, but the Sunni triangle where the bad guys
and so they were like a connective tissue, right? They were, so that's why Iraq was always friendly with Syria and friendly with Iran, and that's why a lot of weird stuff would run through the roads of Iraq that we can't talk about to either country. So do I understand if I know that my surrounding neighbors do not like me, my theory had always been it's easy to say, if you're stocking up on guns and your neighbor's concerned about you and you say, Tim, it's not about you, man. I love you. You're a great neighbor. It's about the crazy guy down the street. I sometimes wondered if they tried to use a common enemy to say why they needed nuclear weapons.
The common enemy being Israel.
Because they didn't want to say, because you know what, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Afghanistan, all you guys scare the heck out of me. I feel like you want me to be gone so everything can be Sunni.
I'm blown away by what I don't see and what I think I expected to see. I expected as soon as the first bomb, especially the first Israeli bomb, dropped on Tehran, I expected to see the Arab street explode. To the extent that it has exploded in support
100%.
Of Iran and Israel.
And that just tells you how much they don't want Iran to be a powerful nation. Again, they're not Arabs. They don't share that. That's why they don't really care about Gaza. Palestinians aren't Arabs.
Let's draw that distinction. They're not Arabs. You keep saying this. They're Persians. That's a different thing.
Completely different thing, right? The Aryan race came from Persians. And so they had their own culture, their own style, their own language. They, unique, they want to be Persian in the same way that Chinese people want to be Chinese. Like, they might want to have a Burger King or a McDonald's down the street, maybe even a Starbucks, but they like their silk robes. They like their old architecture. They like their crazy music.
And by the way,
their
to put this into a theological context that both of us can understand, the Babylonians and the Israeli exile, well, who conquered the Babylonians, right? Bunch of Persians.
Yeah.
And so, that's how far back this goes.
But we also knew, well, maybe not all the listeners, but we also knew that during the buildup, we were flying in more C-17s for the operation that we started about 10 days ago. But we can't bring that much material and manpower into a theater unless the host nation says, yeah, you can land. I'm totally happy with what you're bringing in my boundaries. And so I think everyone over there would like to see certainly a weaker Iran or maybe just no Iran, of having influence over there. The minute they got a nuclear device, then we'd have to say, you all get them. It's just that crazy escalation.
So mutually assured destruction again.
Sure. But when you think about Pakistan and you think about Afghanistan, also not Persian, also not Arab.
Right.
And none of them care about those two. Right? You're not in the group.
Right.
You're Palestinian light at that point.
How do we see this ending?
All right. Well, I see us. We're
see
just going to cut
the segment
break.
ending. Okay.
Oh, I see the segment ending, and then I don't know how the show's going to end. Probably with Nickelback. But anyways, once again, you're listening to WMOQ 92.3 with Marc McMain Show.
Lake Life is the Lake Area's largest award-winning magazine, reaching over 25,000 readers. Pick up your copy of Lake Life magazine today. Get Lake Life free at over 100 convenient locations in Georgia's Lake Country. And keep in mind, you'll receive your free copy with a subscription to the Lake Oconee News or the Eatonton Messenger. Lake Life. It's all about the lives and events in Georgia's Lake Country. Call 706-485-3501 to subscribe. Lake Life, the biggest, the best, and it's free.
Serving Loganville and the surrounding area for over 25 years, it's the Main Street Barbershop, 305 Main Street next to Braxton's Auction in downtown Loganville, offering old-fashioned service and modern-day styles. Appointments available and walk-ins welcome. Open Tuesday through Saturday with a friendly staff and atmosphere. That's Main Street Barbershop in downtown Loganville. Call 770-554-3300 or go to mainstreetbarberloganville.com to learn more.
Anytime is a great time to make memories of the Yellow River Wildlife Sanctuary in Lilburn. Close to home and fun for the entire family. Not only will you see wildlife up close, like bears, otters, bison, and more, you can enjoy a picnic lunch. There's gem mining and so much more. The Yellow River Wildlife Sanctuary, 4525 Highway 78 in Lilburn. Make plans to visit soon. To learn more, go to yellowriverwildlifesanctuary.com.
I've got to tell you about the best kept secret in Monroe for electric wholesale supply, Allen's Electric. Family owned and operated since 1972, Allen's Electric offers a complete line of electrical supply, wiring, breakers, bulbs, heating elements, electric motors, light fixtures, and so much more. Located at 925 West Spring Street in Monroe, stop by and see Brian and Cindy, in business for over 50 years. That's Allen Electric Supply, 770-267-5572.
This is Pastor Stephen Butler from Bible Baptist Church in Monroe with some good news for you today. Ephesians 2:8-9 says, "For by grace are you saved through faith, and that not of yourselves, it is the gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast." Here at Bible Baptist, we're thankful for salvation found only in Jesus Christ. Services are held Sundays at 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. On Wednesdays, we have children's activities for preschool and elementary students and youth group for all middle and high school students. There's also an adult Bible study, all beginning at 7 p.m. Lots of other exciting things like senior adult ministry, ladies Bible study, men's ministry, and our young adult ministry meet every month. There's something for everyone here. So visit us in person at 1180 Old Monroe Madison Highway in Monroe or online at www.biblebapt.org and be our guest at Bible Baptist Church of Monroe.
All right, welcome back to the Marc McMain Show, Q92.3 Real Country. Again, I'm Mitchell Swan, filling in for Mark, and my guest today is Tim Bryant from the Georgia Morning News. So, Tim, we've covered a lot so far. We even talked about Ayn Rand a little bit.
I had not prepped for that, so I'm glad.
Yeah, how about that? Well, it goes back to some of these things about broadcasting, and this is something I had a discussion with someone the other day about the importance of people reading. I feel like no one's going to the library anymore. They just go to YouTube, put in a subject, and they'll listen to anybody. Yeah. What's the guy's background? I have no idea. Do they have an agenda? I don't know, but it's fascinating. I love his voice, and I'm going to listen. But one of the arguments I was making with people the other day about how important it is, especially for children, to read, is for this reason. You and I could read a Mark Twain novel. Maybe it's Huckleberry Finn or something of that nature. You put the book down, I finished it, I put it down, and we both had two completely different experiences, even though we read the same book. And what I mean by that is my imagination engages during the book. So what I think of when I think of the Mississippi or one of those great ships going up and down it with the spinning wheel on the side is different than what you do. And when you read, you actually engage your imagination and you develop that. And when you engage your imagination, that leads to the development of contemplation, because now you can see an event and then imagine second and third, fourth order of effects, maybe with a war that's going on. You start to project what are possibilities. And once you work on that, contemplation leads to reason and logic. And I feel when we turn on a podcast, especially on YouTube, we're not just going to listen to it, we're going to watch it. Everything is fed to you. And you get the imagery they want you to have. They have the music track that they want you to have. They get the endorphins going the way they want. Then they hammer you with a message. Dopamine. And you're like, yeah, that seems completely reasonable. I'm going to listen to what the girl in the bikini just told me for U.S. policy.
So one of those reasons, and you're describing what happens when you read, a lot of that happens, and I'm going to pat our industry on the back here, is radio. A lot of that happens when you're listening to it on the radio. When you're listening to the baseball game on the radio.
You're imagining.
First of all, you're seeing it. Well, okay, the runner's on first, and it's a 2-0 pitch to a left-handed batter, a right-handed pitcher, and there are 2 outs, and we're down a run. You're processing all this information that the guy behind the microphone is giving you. Whereas if you're much more active and engaged. If you're watching on TV, you're much more passive about it.
Yes, 100%.
Whatever it
Great
might be.
Point.
So, in that respect, radio engages your mind more, makes you work more mentally than you can. And I do this every day. I sit out on my deck, and when the weather's nice and the game's on, and I'm just kind of vegging out. Yeah, there's the game, but I don't really have to lock into it. If all I had was the radio and I care about the outcome of the game, I'm hanging on every pitch.
Sure. Well, I think that's a great point. I think we do enjoy listening to radio also because just like sports, if you're driving in your car, you just feel like you're part of the community. You're kind of timed in because it's live as opposed to that podcast that came published 8 months ago or something.
Listen, I've listened to some really engaging podcasts. I'm not tossing the baby out with the bathwater. This will sort itself out. It already has to some extent. There are successful podcasters in the same way there are successful radio talk show hosts and successful TV entertainers and movie stars and newspaper writers. This thing seeks its own level.
Well, this morning, as I was getting ready, I just wanted to see a recap of the weekend. And one of the guys I do listen to, among many, is Douglas McGregor, a retired colonel. And when I went to there, it looked like it was going to be Douglas McGregor, and he started to speak, and then there was a break, and then some other knucklehead comes on and tells you his interpretation of Douglas McGregor. And I find that one thing nice about books or having someone on the radio speaking to you is that you get a singular mind. But when you can't even finish like a Douglas McGregor singular thought with some guy coming in with his 3 buddies saying, here's what we're seeing about this, it just muddles the whole thing. And I just think, and iron sharpens iron. When you got a smart person delivering a message or writing a book or giving a show, and you hear them out from A to Z, their complete thought.
Which is why I hear all this stuff. I mean, I've heard it for as long as I've been in radio, and it'll continue. And well, radio's dying. And okay, first of all, it isn't. I mean, we can show you the numbers. It isn't, not by a long shot. In some respects, it's thriving in ways that it never has before. But neither here nor there. I give you an example of what I'm talking about. My dad fought in the Pacific in World War II.
Did not know that.
Can't wait to hear you connect these dots. Yeah. Okay. My dad, I asked him once. We were watching a movie, a World War II movie. And I'll tell you what it was. The Japanese, early in the war, fairly early, not long after Pearl Harbor. What was the movie? Tora, I think.
Yep.
Wonderful movie. The Japanese officers approached the general. We need to talk about surrendering. We can't win this. We've awakened the sleeping giant. Well, my dad's in the Pacific by now. I said, was there ever a time when you didn't think you were going to win the war? America can't win this war. He said, oh, no, we knew we'd win. And we had too many people, too much by way of industrialization. We knew we'd win. Now, I didn't know I was going to survive.
We didn't know what the cost would be.
I might not come home, but we're going to win the war. And I always draw on that when it's talking about, for example, radio. Radio and media in general are going to survive and thrive. Whether I'm going to be a part of that, I don't know. But I mean, I have a lot of faith in the industry because people want specifically radio. We'll talk about that because that's what I do and have done for decades. People need that connection. People want more than need it; they want it.
I thought you were going to take us to Tokyo Rose.
No, none of that. I mean, there is a bunch of dead air nonsense on radio, and most of it isn't worth your time. But what there is well worth your time, and people get to choose and decide what they like and what they don't like. But when they hear that connection, especially when they hear talking about their community where they live, and when they can tell you that the traffic signal's out, or the baseball team won last night, or whatever it is that the people who live in that place want to know about that place or need to know about that place, and they're hearing from somebody who is in that place, then.
Well, one of the best things about you that I like, and as you know, you've been in the industry a while, but right now your show is growing. You have probably more reach now than you've ever had. Tell us about that.
It's going to continue, by the way. There's some developments coming soon, very soon, you and I are going to need to talk about, that are going to expand that growth. And I'm excited about that. I was in a position, I had worked for a radio station in Athens for a number of years and thought I might retire there. The people who owned it had different ideas. And so I began to scramble and come up with Plan B and got together with some really smart people who were attuned in what I was trying to do. And what we have done has been so very successful. I joke about it all the time. If I'd known it was going to work this way, I'd have been fired a long time ago. That we've been able to build something in a very short period of time, going to continue to grow it. So, yeah, you're right. Probably reaching now more people than I ever have, with the opportunities in the months to come to expand it even more.
Well, I'm going to add some color to this for people because, again, this is not a podcast, right? You're just hanging it out there on the computer networks and having it run at someone's time. You have a morning show that goes live. And so when someone down in Brunswick, I'm going to make up a place, Brunswick, Georgia is like, hey, we want Tim Bryan in the morning. Well, someone just lost their job. Someone else was filling that air. It's not like they're adding you to their library of potential downloads. You're the one going live. And it's
I suppose it's not a zero-sum game in that sense. Although I guess in some cases that might be. But no, you've got a thing there.
Okay. Well, anyways, we're getting there. But I'm just saying there's an appetite for you. You do your job very, very well. And man,
I better, because I never learned to do anything else.
Well, you kept me on the rails today. I truly appreciate that. This would have been a wonky show had you not been in. So I'm just going to wrap it up today. So, again, this is Mitchell Swan. I'm just filling in for Marc McMain.
Who's out running for Senate, I think. Something like that.
He is, but I'm not even sure we're allowed to talk about that.
Oh, sure. What are they going to find us? What do I care?
Well, it's because it's his station. It's a whole lot different.
Which makes it his problem, not mine. So.
He's running for something. I kind of like him. I don't know.
Seems like a decent guy.
Can't remember if he's Republican or Democrat, but he seems like a good dude. He has talent, though.
Yes,
I love the team here at Real Country. Of course. Jassa, you've done a great job today.
Well, thank you. And you've done amazing today and filling in for Marc and having a great guest. today. So I'm super excited to have you on board.
Well, that's high praise. We'll
Yes.
take all of that.
I'm going to go take a nap.
All right. Very well.
Hopefully after I get home.
Yes.
On that.
Thank you for coming
Thank
and being
you.
with us,
Yeah, it's
Tim.
always fun, always
and
fun.
tomorrow's show for Marc McMain, we're going to have Mr. Bob Furr and with the Madison Charlie with talking rock lobsters. So the hockey.
Oh, I heard
rock
that's big. Have you
lobsters is
been
a
yet?
Been to one
huge-
game. If you've never been to a Rock
It's
Lobsters
fun.
game, you need
Yes.
to go.
Yep.
When are we going? Is the season over?
Oh, no, they're playing right now. I don't mean
put
right
that
this
on-
minute, but
let's
yeah,
put that on the
it's-
calendar.
Rock
It's
lobsters.
hockey season.
Rock
Yep.
lobsters.
We'll find out more tomorrow.
All right. Thank you
Awesome.
all.
See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.